have arrived at the bus stop on time and got the line here. Morning.
Morning.
I'm going to make that bigger.
Oh.
Let's see. Try that.
Okay. You see.
Perfect.
It's working, yeah?
Thank you very much. Any chairs up?
Any?
All
But you
right.
have to sit together because it's going to be crowded,
Okay.
yeah? You don't have to. Of course. You can come.
This will work. Hello.
Yeah? Please take off your jackets because we are going to the higher mountains and later it's a little bit fresher than here in our city Munich. But we have the advantage. We are going to the most beautiful landscape of Germany, if you like mountains, yeah? And today you see the sun is already preparing our arrival. The sun is shining, yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, first information to survive the day very well. Fasten your seatbelts. Fasten your seatbelts, please. Whenever you are coming back on our bus, fasten your seatbelts. And my second information, of course, we have a restroom, bathroom, WC, water closet here on board of the bus. It's downstairs in the corner, and there is a knot. And don't fight for the front seats. Yeah, there are people sitting already. They have been the early birds, and that's life. Yeah. You see, here in Germany, and I hope you know, Munich was the cradle of the beginning, because Hitler declared Munich as a city of the movement, as soon as he was finally the boss at Berlin. And the consequence for our city Munich, of course, in the Hitler time, it was great, because Munich was not only the city of the movement, Munich was also the cultural city. So we had a lot of, you can imagine, wonderful cultural events taking place in our city Munich. It was very positive for the city, but after the atrocities of World War II, of course, it was complicated for our city council to accept the special role of our city Munich during World War II, and that's a reason why the city council was pretty afraid the tourists are not coming anymore. Munich was a tourist city already, you see, and this was a big problem, and the consequence, it had taken 30 years for the city finally to decide to construct a monument as a memorial for the victims here in Munich of the Hitler time. And we have a special tool for you now.
Let's see.
We are showing you
There we are. Thank you very much.
Hitler buildings here in our city Munich, because you have to understand, Munich was badly aerated in the last days of World War II, and the old town was nearly completely at the ground. You can't imagine how it was looking. 90% of the buildings have been at the ground. But you have the impression Munich is very old. Now you know, we are fooling your eyes because our city Munich is reconstructed like it used to be before World War II. And that's a big difference to Frankfurt or Stuttgart or Berlin or Hamburg. There they constructed in the modern style of the 70s, the 60s. Here in Munich, they are very conservative, the Bavarians, so they reconstructed the city like it used to be before World War II, and we are fooling your eyes. And I have a terrific story for you, because the NSDAP party, they wanted to make a special, you can say, present to one of Hitler's birthdays, and they ordered photographers to take multicolored photos of the most important buildings in the old town, outside, inside. And they presented this album to Hitler, and the album survived. And based on this album, they have been able to reconstruct the city. Isn't it the irony of history? Huh? It's amazing, isn't it? So, ladies and gentlemen, I promised you a special tour. Here we are. Have a look to your right side. You see? The eternal flame burning 24/7. Here on your right side, it's a memorial. But it had taken 30 years, finally, to construct it. I hope you know, Hitler was coming to Munich 1913, and he wanted to be a student at our famous Academy of Fine Arts. He was a Bohemian. He thought he would be able to live from his paintings, but he was not talented enough. He was not accepted. So he had to paint postcards of the sightseeing points in Munich, and he sold the postcards in the beer halls. So the real beginning of Hitler here in Munich was in the beer halls, yeah? Please keep it in mind, because later his biggest successes he got when he had the speeches in the beer halls, yeah? He was living pretty simple. He didn't have a lot of money. He was living in a home for homeless guys. And we have a big surprise for you, because we are going to show you the residence of Hitler, where he was finally living in Munich, because Munich was his individual, you can say his own preferred city. He was ruling from Berlin, but he was living here in Munich. He had his first seat, his first residence in Munich in all the time. And now please open your eyes, because we are starting with the first Hitler building. I hope you will be surprised. Have a look to your left side, because this is a typical Hitler building in the architecture and in the decoration. You see all these pillars, yeah? You see here, this was the exhibition hall in the Hitler time for poor Aryan art. We had also degenerated art exhibitions, you know. Have a look to your left side, because this is our wonderful English garden. And just under the bridge is our ocean wave, yeah, where the young guys are surfing. English garden is stretching 5 kilometers to the north. And now you have to be fast, please, because have a look to your left side. Fahr ein bisschen langsamer, Marco, sei so gut. Have a look to the beautiful building on your left side. That's a museum, a Bavarian National Museum. Now you have to switch to your right side, please, because you will see the building, Hitler building with a double eagle, still original, because this building on your right side was the air base command in the Hitler time. And have a look, it's totally unscathed. The wonderful building on your left side is reconstructed, yeah, because 2/3 of the building was at the ground. Can you imagine? Same street, different on each side. And do you know why? They have been stupid, yeah, in the Hitler time, because when they lost Stalingrad finally, they knew it's going to be complicated, and therefore they have hidden all the Hitler buildings under camouflage nets. Does it ring a bell with you? This was a reason why the pilots didn't have the chance to target the Hitler buildings, yeah? This was pretty clever, and that's a reason why all the Hitler buildings here are still in a perfect condition, huh? We have a lot of these Hitler buildings still. And now, ladies and gentlemen, have a look to this beautiful river Isar. Yeah, here in Munich we like it very much. We love it, Isar River. It's coming from Austria, where we are heading. We are definitely going to Austria, yeah, because our place is very, very close to Austria. Yeah, we are driving to Salzburg, and then we are driving 10 kilometers in Austria. You can see already. It's going to be interesting, and then we are coming back in a half circle to Bavaria, where we have the destination with the Eagle's Nest and Obersalzberg. And please, ladies and gentlemen, now you can see Munich is a green city, yeah? We have 42 parks in our city, and this is also the next park for you, with the Angel of Peace on your left side, and this is the opening to the most expensive residential area of our city, Munich. Yeah? You see here, when you are looking around, a lot of villas and residences, because all the guys with money, they started around 1900 more or less to construct buildings here. That's a famous Prinzregentenstraße, named after the guy who had taken over after our fairy tale king was found dead in the lake. You remember? Prince Regent Luitpold, yeah? And he was, that's a good old time of Prince Regent Luitpold. And the decoration style of this time was Art Nouveau, yeah? Jugendstil, Art Nouveau. It was a pretty short time of this decoration, you can say about 25 years, yeah? But have a look around, because this is really beautiful, very decorative, yeah? For example, the building on your right side, this is now a bank of Switzerland, and they are accepting customers only from 1 million up, not the other direction. Huh? Have a look to your left side now. You see the series of buildings in Art Nouveau style. And the building on your left side is pretty famous. That's our most famous delicatessen shop and the delicatessen restaurant. So, gentlemen, if you want to impress your ladies, you know what to do. Go to Käfer. That's the name, Käfer. And now, ladies and gentlemen, my big surprise is coming. First, have a look to your right side. Prinzregententheater. And that's the style Art Nouveau in very poor fact. Have a look to the decoration. And the other guests, everybody has to look around here. And on your right side, ladies and gentlemen, now, this was Hitler's residence. Have a look to the building, which is just stretching around the corner here on your right side, and you can see the police is sitting inside. And this was Hitler's residence. Can I surprise you? Yeah? You see, he was coming 1913, very poor, living in the home of homeless guys, and 1926, already, he was able to buy the whole residence. And this was his favorite place to live when he was in Munich. And ladies and gentlemen, Hitler, when he killed himself, you know, he first poisoned himself, then he shot himself with his revolver, and finally he didn't have a good relationship towards his family, and the consequence, he kept his first residence here, so Bavaria inherited everything of Hitler. Do you understand? They inherited the money. Hitler was not only a millionaire, he was a billionaire, I have to tell you, because he owned the copyright for the book of Mein Kampf. He owned the copyright for the photos of Hitler. This was a pretty clever touch of the propaganda in the Hitler time. Hitler had a private photographer, Hoffmann, yeah? And this guy had a studio here, and he was responsible for the glorification of Hitler, because he made wonderful photos of Hitler, the so-called private Hitler and so on. And he had Hitler had the copyright, and he earned a lot of money. And did you know, on all the stamps in the Hitler time, there have been the photo of Hitler, yeah, for the mail, yeah. And you see, he was pretty wealthy, and Bavaria inherited also the copyright for the book Mein Kampf. And after 1945, it was forbidden to copy, to publish the book Mein Kampf in German language, yeah. And this was running out 2015, and the Bavarian state, owning the copyright, had to decide what to do. So the Bavarian state ordered historians to write commentaries to each sentence of Hitler's original text. When you are now buying a book in German language, on one page you have the original text, on the other side you have the commentary of the historians. So ladies and gentlemen, this was our introduction for you to our theme today during our journey. Yeah? You see, Hitler was climbing up the ladder of success very fast. 1913, very poor. 1926, he was living in the most expensive residential area of our city. Huh? That's a big difference. And now we are driving here at the ring road, which is running around the whole city. I hope I can surprise you again, because this ring road, ladies and gentlemen, is keeping the heavy traffic away from the center. And this ring road was constructed for the Olympic Summer Games back 1972. And these Olympic Summer Games have been the present of the century for our city, Munich. We got a terrific Olympic stadium. Have you been there already at the Olympic Stadium? Oh, that's a shame, because if you have time, please do it, yeah? You can take the U-train to the Olympic Stadium and you will be surprised, because the stadium itself is a demonstration of the change of Germany in a political way. You see, because the stadium has no roof, which is closing, it's open, and it's a demonstration of the open society of Germany after this terrible World War II. Yeah, because there are huge pylons which are carrying the roof, but it's nowhere closing. So it's a demonstration of the democracy of the new system in Germany. And I have to tell you, the whole ground there used to be an airport. Chamberlain, for example, for the Munich Pact 1938 was arriving there still, yeah? And now we have, in the meantime, we have two different airports, yeah? The newest airport is in the northern part of our city, Munich. So for the Olympic Games, we got the stadium, the park, yeah? The park is totally man-made, yeah? The whole landscape is an undulation, yeah? Because it was totally flat when it was an airport, yeah? So it's worthwhile to go and see it. For the Olympic Games, we got this wonderful Olympic Park, the stadium, we got the ring road here, we got the underground train line, the U-train and the suburban train, the S-train, and we got the pedestrian zone in the city. And 1972, a pedestrian zone was a real sensation, because it was one of the first pedestrian zones in Europe. Yeah? Today it's no longer a sensation. And ladies and gentlemen, we got something which was also a sensation back 1972 in your keenest fantasy. You can't imagine what we got for the Olympic Games. We got the first McDonald's. McDonald's for the Olympic Games 1972 for Germany, eh? And you can imagine there have been queues at the McDonald's. Eh? It was definitely a sensation. Eh? So finally, Matko, our driver, you see, he's pretty clever, yeah? And we are coming to the highway. In German we say Autobahn. And the Germans, they like their Autobahn, yeah? Because you have to understand, in the Hitler time, it was a time when we had slowly but definitely the Germans have been buying cars, and to come from one city to the other without big problems, it was necessary to have special roads. And this was the beginning of the highways, yeah? And in the Hitler time, they constructed a lot of highways. Today, we have 14,000 kilometers highway crisscrossing Germany, and today, we are using the most spectacular highway, because we are driving parallel to the mountains, ladies and gentlemen, parallel to the Alps. You will see, it's terrific, yeah? All the highways in Germany have blue signposts with white letters on it. The normal roads have yellow signposts with black letters on it, yeah? And we are using the highway to Salzburg, number 8, yeah? You can read it here. And the German highways, ladies and gentlemen, they have a lot of positive points. The first, they are pretty good. They have a good quality. You will feel it. We are rolling, very fine. Yeah. The second point, positive point, you don't have to pay for the usage of the German highways. In all the other European countries, you have to pay a lot. Only Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium, these are the only 3 states in Europe where you don't have to pay. And the best of all, on Sundays, no trucks are allowed on the German highways. Did you know? They have to stop Saturday midnight, and they are allowed back on the highway Sunday 10 p.m. The negative or the positive point, it depends from which corner you are looking at it. We don't have a speed reduction. Generally, you can say. Of course, we have speed reductions when we have noise-protected areas, when we have roadworks going on, when we have junctions coming, when we have special weather destinations. Then, of course, we have speed reduction, and we have recommended speed of 130 kilometers, but it's only recommended. So if you have a wonderful BMW or Porsche, and if the traffic situation allows it, it's not very often, by the way, because our highways are too busy, then you can drive with 200-220 kilometers per hour. But that's not very often. So don't worry. Matko is only allowed 100 kilometers per hour. Yeah, even if he's standing constantly on the pedal, the motor is restricted of the buses. Yeah? Our company knows the guys, you know. And the truck drivers, they have a strict reduction to 80 kilometers per hour. Yeah, so you see, that's pretty secure. You can trust Matko. Yeah, he's an excellent driver. So, ladies and gentlemen, he is also looking for your health. Yeah, you can drink something, and you know the best drink in Bavaria?
Das Bier.
No, it's water. Our wonderful drinking water coming from the mountains. And it's not a joke. Water is excellent in Bavaria. You can drink the water right from the tap in your hotel room. Did you know? Don't buy water in our city. It's coming from the mountains. I will show you where it's coming from. Yeah? Of course, he has water, he has apple juice and Coke. All these drinks have the price of €2, so that's pretty good, yeah? And of course, when we are driving back home, he has beer for you. But please drink it only when we are finally driving back home, because this is today your fitness test, yeah? You have to move around a lot, yeah? I hope you are fit, because it's going to be definitely perfect today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so happy because this is the first week they reopened the Eagle's Nest. The last 2 weeks have been terrible because we had to go to the salt mine. Of course, the salt mine is pretty funny, but it's not so exciting like the Eagle's Nest itself, because you will have a tour with the special buses. These are red buses of MAN. MAN is a corporation in Munich, very famous for buses and for trucks. And with such a wonderful bus of MAN, we are driving from Obersalzberg to the Eagle's Nest itself. So please, ladies and gentlemen, don't mix it up. Hitler was living at Obersalzberg. There he had a supersized farmhouse, and this was the second seat of the government in the Hitler time, because every summertime for 5-6 months Hitler was living at Obersalzberg, and the Eagle's Nest was only a tea house. I hope you know about it, so please don't mix it up. I will show you the names and the houses on my paper, so I will be sure you know it. The Eagle's Nest was only a tea house, and the name Eagle's Nest is going back to an Italian diplomat. Hitler was accompanying very important guests up to the Eagle's Nest. which was the propaganda highlight, the eagle's nest, you have to know. And the Italian diplomat was so stunned, he was so delighted, he was so impressed. He said, "Oh my God, this gives me the impression it's I'm sitting in the nest of an eagle." And this was a moment when the name stuck. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you the chain of the Alps. Have a look. They are spread out in front of your eyes. Have a look mainly to your right side. Yeah? You can even see the snow, because this time we had a very early start of winter. We have the first snow already on the mountains. Yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, I'm passing by to show you what I wanted to tell you. We are arriving at Obersalzberg, then we are changing the bus and we are driving to the Eagle's Nest. And that's the steepest alpine road of Germany. So if you are like Hitler, afraid of altitude, don't sit at the window seat. Huh? No, you are loving, yeah? You will see. How you are feeling, later. The man, Okay, so that was Hitler's house. To be sure everybody got it, yeah? This was a so-called Berghof, yeah? And you see, it's Obersalzberg, where we are heading. Then there we are changing the bus and we are driving up to the Eagle's Nest. You see here? Oops. Okay, good. Yeah? The Eagle's Nest was only a showcase. Yeah? It was never meant to stay overnight here. And Hitler was there only 13 times in 5 years. That's a long time because he didn't like it. It was a present for his 50th birthday of the NSDAP party. Yeah? Okay? You got it?
Excuse me. Which of those did Bormann construct?
Bormann was no architect. He was the secretary of Hitler. Just wait for my story.
Okay.
And you will get your answer. Okay? Okay? Good.
I've read that Hitler was claustrophobic and he also didn't like heights.
Perfect to live up on top of a mountain.
Yeah.
Well, a friend asked last night if I was going to see the
Ladies and gentlemen, to get up to the
handiwork. I guess
Eagle's
he was like a
Nest,
project
we need a
manager
special
for
bus ride.
construction of the
And
Eagle's
you have to
Could be
pay
wrong,
for this
see what
special
she
bus
says.
ride, because the voucher which you have shown me at the beginning, which I scanned, is only valid for the journey. Yeah? You have to pay 33 euro, and I'm passing by. I will collect the money. Yeah? And please prepare your card, because it's with a card. Yeah? If you don't have a card, cash is also okay, but mainly card. Yeah? And please consider this ticket for the bus ride is also valid for the visit of the documentation center. There is a terrific information center which you have to visit, and in the underground of this information center is the entrance to the bunker system, because in the middle of World War II, 1943, can you imagine, they constructed a huge bunker system in the underground of Obersalzberg, because they wanted to be able to rule from there when finally the Russians are taking over Berlin. Yeah? It never happened. They had the same number of offices in the underground, which they had also on the surface. Yeah? Huh? You can imagine, it's a huge area and it's pretty impressive. So your ticket is valid not only for the bus ride, but also the entrance to the information center and the bunker system. It's 33 euros, and I'm passing by, and we have already, I collected already the money, so when I'm passing by, please show me your receipt, yeah? If you have a receipt, huh? Fritz Todt was the main engineer. He was responsible for all the highways in the Hitler time. And you see, this special of the highway is climbing, descending, curved, and simultaneously sometimes it's descending and curved. So it's pretty complicated. An engineer today would never ever lay out the highway in this style. This was a so-called landscape style, you see, to show the Germans how beautiful their countryside is, and finally to vote for Hitler because he constructed these wonderful highways. Yeah. So on your right side you will see a church with an onion-shaped dome on it. Yeah, very typical for Bavaria. I hope you know already. This onion-shaped dome is coming from the Orient, from the mosques, and it came in the time 1500 over Italy to Bavaria. And from this time on, all the Catholic churches got the onion-shaped domes. And here we are, just a moment. And hopefully, yeah, yeah, Matko, come on. Now you can see it, what I wanted to show you. Huh? The church in the middle of the green meadow on the rolling hills with the backdrop of the mountains. Isn't it wonderful? Huh? That's Bavaria, ladies and gentlemen, what I promised you. And now you can see the highway is descending and simultaneously it's curved. So that's a very critical moment of the highway today. And of course, our driver is doing very well. But you see, for all the drivers, it's a little bit complicated, yeah? And today we don't lay out the highways in this landscape style, yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, now you have the opening of the Alps. Actually, to give you an idea to think about a little bit, the height of the mountains is more or less about 6,000 feet, 2,000 meters more or less. Some are 1,800 more, some 2,100. And ladies and gentlemen, have a look. You can see the happy cows on the green meadows, because that's typical for Bavaria. Here, the closer we are coming to the mountains, the more you have only milk farmers. So we have a lot of milk farmers here, and during our journey, I promise you a wonderful journey, you will see a lot of these happy cows outside. When you are now looking to your right side, you can see a typical Bavarian farmhouse. Yeah? The farmhouse is a combination of 3 different parts. You see, the front is a living quarter, and at the back front, at the basement, you have the stable, and on the first floor you have the barn. Yeah? And this is very, very typical, and mostly the houses are looking to the eastern direction. Yeah, that's an old, very old tradition, because in the eastern direction the sun is coming. Yeah, you see, so it has a little bit to do with the tradition also. Yeah. Is the busiest west-east axis in the southern part of Germany. The highway is running to Salzburg, to Vienna, to Budapest, to Belgrade, you see, in the eastern part of Europe. So we have a lot of traffic going on, and this highway is also running to Austria and Italy. And now, please pay attention to the blue sign, because it tells you the 2 lanes on your right side, they are running to Italy, Verona. And you can read Innsbruck. And Kufstein, that's Austria. You have a capital letter A and I. You see, this highway is the shortest way to Austria and to Italy. And you can read here Brenner. Brenner, that's the name of the Pest Road. And my surprise for you, this is an old Roman pest road. Can you imagine the Romans have been here in this southern part of Bavaria from 75 before Jesus Christ up to 485 after Jesus Christ. And these Romans have been extremely clever. They brought us the construction with the houses with stone. Yeah? Up to this time, the country folk knew only wooden huts, yeah? But the Romans, they brought the construction with the stone. And the Romans found the best way over the Alps. Without computer, please consider, yeah? And still today, it's the best way, yeah? And Brenner, and that's the advantage of all the guys living in Munich. In half an hour, we are in Austria, yeah? In 2.5, 3 hours, we are in Italy, you see? So that's really great, huh? Please prepare your camera, your mobile phone, because pretty soon you will see one of our big rivers coming from Austria. You remember Isar River, back in Munich, is also coming from Austria, and that's now the river Inn. And that river is pretty interesting because Hitler was born in a small town not far away from here at the river Inn, yeah, at Braunau, yeah. You see, it was pretty close, just over the bridge, and then you are at Braunau from Bavaria. Now you have the river Inn. Have a look to your right side because you can see the mountains behind already, huh? You see, this river is pretty impressive, yeah. It's looking pretty quiet and peaceful. But it's a dangerous river because when we have the snow melting in the springtime and it's simultaneously raining for days and days and days, the water level is sometimes lapping over, and we have to cancel our tour to Salzburg to the Eagle's Nest, yeah, because the highway is overflooded, yeah. Know where we are moving around. Do you have an idea? Huh? I know most of our guests, they don't know where we are moving around, and we are moving to a very, very special place, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big moment, yeah? But our driver, he's so fast, I have to hurry. You see, that's our biggest lake in Bavaria. And immediately you can see there is an island, and exactly on this island, Ludwig the fairy tale king constructed castle number 3. Perhaps you have seen already Neuschwanstein and Linderhof, and the most luxury castle was constructed right here on the island. And it's a copy of Versailles, a very luxury copy, and Ludwig overdid it. He was no longer able to pay for it, so the consequence, they tested Ludwig. A psychiatrist had written a medical statement of his mental health of Ludwig. And this statement was devastating because it incapacitated Ludwig. This was the end of Ludwig as king. He was brought to a special summer residence of the family at Starnberg, and there he was arrested, and finally they found him dead in the lake. Yeah? You see, it was a tragedy happening in June 13th, 1886. Yeah? And we have not only one island, we have two islands here on the lake Chiemsee. That's the name of this lake, Chiemsee. Yeah? That's a name in dialect, I can't translate it. Yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, you, when you are coming next time, you have to take the train in direction to Salzburg. You have to hop off at Brien, and then you have to take the steamboat to the islands. It's such a beautiful journey, and the castle is overwhelming, I can tell you. It's so wonderful. It's a museum since Ludwig was found dead in the lake. There have been a mountain of deaths, so the family and the ministers back at the time, they decided to pay back the debts and to open the castles as museums, because everybody was so curious what this guy was doing, yeah? Because Ludwig was very, very special. He was too eccentric for Bavaria back at the time. And he was overdoing it. And now, are you ready? Because there is a special spectacle happening on your left side. You will see, slowly but definitely, the Ladies' Island. The huge island is a gentleman island. The Ladies' Island is going to be separated. The Ladies' Island, ladies and gentlemen, is small. Actually, you can walk around in 40 minutes, yeah? But it's terrific. We have only 30 families living there, mostly fisher families, because in the water of this lake Chiemsee, there are a lot of different fish, and if you like fish, you can eat the best of the best at the Ladies' Island. And the church, and that's pretty interesting, is a monastery. And it's the oldest monastery for Benedictine nuns in Bavaria. It is going back to the year 782. Can you believe it? It was founded in 782 and it was never closed in all the centuries. That means we have still Benedictine nuns there. Yeah? You have to understand, in the Middle Ages, the daughters of the wealthy dynasties, the daughters who didn't find a husband, they went to the monastery and they brought a lot of money with them and treasures, and this was a special monastery for very wealthy daughters not finding a husband, and therefore the monastery was doing very well because, of course, they got a lot of money. The largest state of Germany, and we are driving from Munich to Salzburg, and you see this green finger here which is reaching into Austria. That's our destination, because Berchtesgaden, Obersalzberg, the Eagle's Nest, is right here in this green finger. And that's the beauty of our journey, yeah? Because you will see 180-degree Austria, 180-degree Germany, the mountains later, yeah? Okay? Was born at Braunau, yeah? I told you already, it's a small town close to the river Inn, which we crossed. He was born 1889, and he was born into a family with a very complicated family background. His father was an employee of the toll police, yeah? And he had stepsisters and stepbrothers because his father was married different times, and Hitler as a boy was pretty complicated already because he didn't like to learn in school the normal stuff. He was more or less more interested in history, and he was painting pretty well, and he was convinced he will have a future as a painter, as a bohemian, eh? And so he didn't want to learn a profession after he left school. His father was pretty disappointed, you can imagine, eh? And he wanted to be a student at the famous Academy of Fine Arts in Austria at Linz, yeah? And he was not accepted, so he tried to get a position as a student at the Academy of Fine Arts in Munich, because this academy was pretty famous, yeah? In 1913 he came to Munich, but there happened the same. He was not accepted, yeah? So he had to paint postcards of the sightseeing points in Munich, and he sold the postcards in the beer halls, you know already. He was living pretty poor. He was living from the hand in the mouth, and you can say he was staying in the home of homeless guys. And then the turning point in his life was happening, because World War I was breaking out 1914, and Hitler immediately became a volunteer, and nobody knows how he did it, how he managed to it, because he didn't have a German passport. He was still an Austrian guy, so it was pretty complicated, yeah? And the historians are still puzzling, how did he manage it, yeah? Nevertheless, during World War I, he was pretty brave, he was decorated, and at the end of World War I, he had a bad accident, a gas attack. And this was so bad, he had to go to a hospital, and there, in the time of the rehabilitation in the hospital, he rethought about his future, and he finally decided no longer to be a bohemian and to be a painter. He was more interested in the world of the policy. And ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, this World War I was a catastrophe for Germany. We had the horror of the industrialized warfare. Yeah? We had millions of casualties at the war front. We had starvation at the home front. We had the brutality of the war. We had no future for jobs. The economy was at the ground, and you have to understand, the monarchies collapsed. The Germans had been finally fed up with all these blue-blooded folk telling them what to do. And we started with the first federal republic system, which we have still today. You remember? Yeah? And the Weimar Republic. But it was a terrible time, because the Treaty of Versailles was a shame for the Germans, and it was pretty tough for the Germans, yeah? And they had a hating feeling for the enemy, especially for the French, yeah? You see, the rival for centuries and centuries. So it was a complicated situation, and we had a lot of right-wing, you can say, movements already, with the anti-Semitic movements. We had nationalist movements and so on. So this was a mixture where Hitler was growing out of. But I hope you know, the Reichswehr, they trained some soldiers coming back from World War I as spies, because they wanted to know what was going on with all the parties. We had a lot of different parties with a different, you can say, goals and aims and so on, so it was complicated. So they trained soldiers coming back to be spies, going to the meetings of the parties, and Hitler was such a guy. He was a spy, and he was coming 1919 to the meeting of the German Worker Party in a beer hall in Munich, and there the boss of the party discovered immediately Hitler had a special talent to talk to people and to motivate people to talk too, yeah? So he asked him, do you like to be a member of our party? Of course, Hitler wanted to be a member, and 1 year later, 1920, he was not only a member of the party, he was a boss of the party, and he changed the name of German Worker Party in NSDAP Party, and this was a name for the whole movement. Ladies and gentlemen, so the party, and that's pretty interesting, they didn't have a lot of members, and it was only a local party at Munich. Please consider, Hitler was only a local guy around Munich, yeah? Nobody at Berlin or Hamburg knew the name Hitler, huh? That's very important to understand. And then, ladies and gentlemen, history was going on. Hitler was working for the party, the NSDAP party. And 1923, we had the devaluation of the money. And this was a catastrophe. And Hitler thought the Weimar Republic is not very strong, not very tough. So he tried to putsch 1923 in November against the Weimar Republic at Munich. He was stopped by the Bavarian police. We had fatalities. Hitler had a trial of high treason next year, 1924. And during this trial for high treason, can you imagine, the judges have been blindsided on the right eyes, and they offered Hitler a platform to lay out his ideas. And this, you can say, the trial was a beginning of the fame of Hitler all over Germany. From this time on, everybody knew Hitler, yeah? You see, it was exactly this platform which was offered to Hitler to lay out his crazy ideas, yeah? I have to tell you, he was sentenced to 5 years prison, but he was finally sitting only half a year in the prison because he had already a lot of supporters in the higher circles of the bankers, of the industry, of the professors of the universities. Yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, consider please, in summer 1923, in summer, before he putsched against the government, he was coming to Obersalzberg for the very first time in his life. And do you know why? A member, a journalist of the NSDAP was hiding there. Obersalzberg was a very well-known small community in the world of the climbers. It's interesting to understand, climbing became a sport in the middle of the 19th century. It was very chic, and so the citizens, they came out to the mountains and they tried to climb around in the mountains. And the farmers at this small village, Oberammergau, have been very witty, very clever, very smart, because they have been living with these mountains for centuries already, yeah? So they knew the mountains very well, and they have been guides for the mountains, and they even rented part of their houses, their farmhouses, to the visitors. Yeah? So therefore, Obersalzberg was pretty famous as a typical climber village. Yeah? And Hitler was coming to this place, and he was falling immediately in love with the nature. And he promised to himself, whenever I will have money and time, I will come back to Obersalzberg. But first of all, then he putsched, and then he had to go to the prison, 1924, and 1925, 1 year later, the next summer, Hitler was coming to Obersalzberg again, and he rented a wooden cottage. And there, at the wooden cottage, he finished the book Mein Kampf, which he started at the prison. And the reason why he finished the book Mein Kampf at Obersalzberg this was a reason why this place became so important for the NSDAP movement. It was called the cradle of the movement, you see. And every summer, Hitler was coming back. At first he was staying in a bed and breakfast house, Moritz. Then finally he was next summer staying in a hotel. He had more money, Berghof. And finally, from 1928 on, he was renting a holiday house of a banker, Wachenfeld. And when he was finally the boss of the Germans, 1933 at Berlin, he was able to buy the holiday house Wachenfeld, and step by step they enlarged this holiday house to this wonderful supersized farmhouse Berghof, where Hitler invited the foreign guests. Chamberlain, for example, Mussolini, they have been there at the Berghof. It was a terrific place in the Alpine style, and exactly on the sun terrace of this Berghof, there Hoffmann, the private photographer, had taken all the photos which became a cult for Hitler, you see, which made him famous. The photo was Hitler with small kids dressed in dirndl, Hitler himself dressed in the Alpine costume with a Bavarian hat, Hitler together with his dog Blondie, or with Eva Braun, or with the other intimates of Hitler. So this place became pretty famous thanks to the photos of Hoffmann, And Eva Braun, the mistress of Hitler, she was 17 years old, and she was an assistant in the photo studio of Hoffmann. So she met Hitler there for the very first time. She was just 17 years, and can you imagine? She was falling head over heels in love with Hitler. She wanted to be close to Hitler, but Hitler had a lot of mistresses, I have to tell you, and it's amazing, a lot of ladies wanted to marry him, but he was a pretty ugly guy. But it was definitely the feeling of power, which was a fascination for the ladies, also for this young blonde girl, Eva Braun. But she was not stupid, No, she knew exactly what she was doing, and she was staying side by side by Hitler for all the time, So, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, did you know Hitler was a vegetarian? And he was never drinking coffee. So he was a tea drinker, and he had also a tea house. 20 minutes walking distance from the Berghof, from his house. And every evening in the summertime he went to this tea house, and he loved it very much. He even invited foreign guests, and then he had the chance to lay out his ideas. He was every evening walking to this tea house. It was only 20 minutes away. I have to tell you, Martin Bormann was a secretary of the NSDAP party, and he was a private secretary of Hitler. He managed the money of Hitler, and he was very close to Hitler. But all the intimates of Hitler, Hermann Göring, Albert Speer, for example, they wanted to be close to Hitler. Goebbels, they wanted to be close to Hitler in the summer month. So consequently, they constructed summer residences also at Obersalzberg, and the mastermind was Martin Bormann. Can you imagine? This guy was very clever, but very smart. He went to the farmers and he made an offer for the ground, for the property, for the farmhouse, and the money was very good. The price was very good. But if the farmer resisted, 3 weeks later Martin Bormann was coming again, and then the money offer was lower. And if the guy still resisted, 3 weeks later Martin Bormann came again, and then he offered only a very low price, and the farmer, who was still resisting, went to the concentration camp at Dachau. It happened a lot. It happened, for example, to the owner of the wonderful hotel, to the Turkish man. I will tell you the story later. So you see, Martin Bormann, step by step, were the whole Obersalzberg, the whole community. They had a hospital there, they had a school there, they had shops there, they had a greenhouse to cultivate the vegetable for Hitler, yeah? You see, and they had, of course, barracks there because the bodyguard of Hitler was an SS man. We had more than 300 SS men there. So it was a total community of the NSDAP, and it was a restricted area to everybody. It was an off-limit area. It was called the Führersperrgebiet. Yeah? You see, you have been not allowed to go to this place. You need a special permission. Yeah? So finally, it was an entourage of Hitler which was living there during the summer month. Yeah? And Martin Bormann, he was pretty close to Hitler, and he wanted to have a special present for Hitler's 50th birthday. And so he ordered an architect of Munich Frick and the engineer Fritz Todt, who was responsible for the construction of the highways, you remember. And these two gentlemen had to look around in the mountain region close to Obersalzberg to find a special mountain for another tea house for Hitler, because, you know, he was a tea drinker, yeah? And his 50th birthday was coming 1939, so 2 years earlier, 1937, they started already with the construction of the road up to the Eagle's Nest, and simultaneously they constructed the Eagle's Nest itself. And it's amazing, ladies and gentlemen, it's like magic. In only 13 months, can you believe it? In only 13 months, they constructed the road, 7 kilometers, the steepest alpine road. They hired special young guys from Italy, Austria, Germany, who knew about constructing roads, yeah? And they did it in 13 months. And in summer 1938, in September, Hitler was coming up to the Eagle's Nest for the very first time. Of course, he was impressed. He was, you can say, he was very delighted, because they used only the best material for the construction and for the decoration. So, of course, it was a pleasure for him. But Hitler was not so tough, and he was afraid of the journey up. He was afraid of the altitude. So we know only officially of 13 times when he was visiting this Eagle's Nest with very, very special guests. Yeah? It was a showcase only for selected guests. Yeah? And you know already the Italian diplomat who finally created the name Eagle's Nest. Yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, in winter, in springtime, after they lost Stalingrad, 1943, they decided to construct a huge bunker system in the underground. And this bunker system, I'm sorry to tell you, was constructed by concentration camp people, and a lot of these people, they died, yeah, because it was a pretty dangerous work, you can imagine. So what happened? Of course, the Allies, they knew about the Obersalzberg, the second seat of the government, and they decided in April 25th, finally, to air raid Obersalzberg. More than 300 Lancaster bombers. They air raided the whole place for 3 hours, can you imagine? So all the houses have been damaged, yeah? And on the hitting list was also the Eagle's Nest, yeah? Of course, because it was a symbol for the Allies of the Hitler time. Beautiful, but nevertheless it was a symbol, yeah? So the Eagle's Nest was on the hitting list, and do you know what happened? The pilots, they didn't have the technique to target the Eagle's Nest, and therefore it was spared from air raid, yeah? And then the GIs came to Obersalzberg and to Berchtesgaden. Berchtesgaden is a bigger city. It's a center of the whole area around the nature reserve park, yeah? The mountain reserve park. So, ladies and gentlemen, before World War II, Obersalzberg was an independent community. After World War II, it became part of Berchtesgaden. So the GIs came, and they had been terribly afraid of the defense of the SS men. But it was like a wonder, like magic. Nobody was there, only Hermann Göring. Hitler actually left the Obersalzberg already in summer 1944 because he knew already at that time it's going downhill with his, you can say, his successes and so on. Yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, the GIs have taken over, and they finally constructed a wonderful hotel at the place where the Platterhof, the hotel for the invited guests in the Hitler time, was standing. Yeah? It was a famous General Walker hotel, and a lot of American families, yeah, they have spending holidays there. They had a golf course, they had ski lifts, ski slopes, so they have been living there a wonderful time. Yeah? I have to interrupt my story because we are coming now to the borderline of Germany. You know, we are going to Austria, and that's here exactly the end. And what's so special, this borderline has a checkpoint because a lot of crazy drivers, they are, you can say, carrying refugees in the underground of their vehicles over the borderline without documents, and therefore they closed the borderline. You can see all the police here and all the cars, and the trucks have to pass by the toll police, yeah, of course, because they are transporting very often these refugees in the underground of your vehicles. Normally you don't have to show your passport, but this is a very sensitive borderline. Actually, it's a main checkpoint from the traffic come from the Eastern Europe. Yeah, you see the trucks, they have to go to the toll police here, and Matko, he has to stop for a moment. It's a little bit stuffed between Austria and Germany and the traffic for the buses. Yeah. Because in Austria, ladies and gentlemen, you have to pay for the usage of the highway, and it starts right away. And you, if you are renting a car and you are passing over the borderline to Austria, it's pretty dangerous because you have to pay a sticker for the window of your car or for the mobile phone, already on the mobile phone, which says you paid already for the usage of the highway. You can pay for a day or for a week or half a year or a whole year or whatever, but please don't go over without this sticker, because they are very, very strict. When they are catching you without sticker or notice on the mobile phone, you have to pay a fine immediately, cash, 200 euro. Yeah? It's pretty expensive, I can tell you. They are very strict, and they have a strict speed reduction to 130 kilometers. And they are checking a lot with radar. Yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, ready to go on? Now, please have a look to your right side, please, because we are pretty close to Salzburg, and the mountain on your right side. This is a characteristic mountain opposite to Salzburg. On your left side, you can see the fortress of Salzburg.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen it? Have a look to your left side at 11. The beige building, the grey beige building, that's a fortress of Salzburg, which is hovering over Salzburg. That's a seat of the archbishops, yeah? And have a look to your right side, because this is Untersberg, and this Untersberg is pretty famous. It's a beautiful mountain to climb up or to hike up, but the best of the mountain are the caves inside, in the interior of the mountain. Yeah? That's very famous, and cave scientists from all over the world, they are coming to study in the interior of this mountain. Can you imagine? Yeah? And Hitler knew the mountain very well, and he wanted to have his ashes strewn in the wind from the top, the summit of this mountain. It was never happening because he was burned down to ashes in the garden of the Reichskanzlei, you know. So, ladies and gentlemen, now you know the eagle's nest was spared from bombing, yeah? And finally, the American government had given back the whole territory of Obersalzberg to the Bavarian and the German government, yeah? Under the condition the Germans are bulldozing down and they are detonating all the buildings because they didn't want to have this area changed in a memorial place for the Hitler fans, yeah? You know, we have still neo-Nazis here in Germany. It's a big problem, and that's also the reason why back in Munich the police is sitting in the Hitler residence. So no chance for the neo-Nazis to transform the building in a memorial place, yeah? You see. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, when 1952 the Germans had to detonate and to take down all the buildings, they had to damage also the eagle's nest. But the local governor, Mr. Jacob, he was pretty clever. He said, we have to defend it. You can't destroy it because it's the only original building of the Hitler time, and we have to use it later as a meeting point for international guests to demonstrate how clever the propaganda was misusing the landscape, the perfect landscape, to show a total wrong picture of Hitler. You see, this was pretty clever of this guy, but it was true because the propaganda in the Hitler time misused these photos of the private photographer to show a wrong picture of Hitler. And when Hitler invited foreign guests, they had the beautiful landscape. It was breathtaking, you have to imagine. Yeah? Hitler was flying with the guests to Salzburg, to the airport, and then they came with a black Mercedes of Hitler convertible to Obersalzberg. It's only 20 kilometers, yeah? So it was deeply impressive, yeah? And they had been fascinated by the landscape. But you see how clever in the Hitler time they misused these beautiful landscape to smooth down everything. Now, I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when we are arriving at Obersalzberg with our bus, then we are hopping off. You will have time to visit a restroom, bathroom, to drink a coffee, or to move around a little bit, to stretch your legs, because we have a special deadline for the buses bringing us up to the Eagle's Nest. And ladies and gentlemen, I will organize the tickets for you. The mountain Kehlstein, and then you are coming to the extraordinary reception hall, which is decorated with a red marble coming from this mountain Untersberg, which I have shown you, a wonderful precious marble in red color. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the next exciting point is starting, because you are going to the elevator, and the elevator is still today original in the decoration, in brass. It's wonderful, I can tell you. And this elevator, of course, has a new technology, but nevertheless, the whole decoration is still original, and in only 55 seconds, 55 seconds, you will be transported up to the Eagle's Nest, and it's like you are visiting a friend in a penthouse apartment. Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah, an elevator in a shaft inside the mountain, and they did it. They constructed it in only 13 months, 1837 and 1838. It's amazing. And the material is gorgeous, I can tell you. You have to visit 3 rooms. Actually, there are only 3 rooms. I told you already, there is not a sleeping room. It was never there. So, still today, you can't stay overnight. So you have to visit 3 rooms, ladies and gentlemen. The first room is a dining room. Now, you have to understand, the whole Eagle's Nest is rented to a tenant, and there is a restaurant now, yeah? But please, you have to go through the dining room, yeah? Because there is a beautiful, wonderful oak paneling, the decoration on the walls and on the ceiling, yeah? And then you are coming to room number 2, and this is really breathtaking because it's a huge reception hall. You have to imagine there is a fireplace in red marble. This was a birthday present of Mussolini for Hitler. Terrific, yeah? And you will see the oak beams on the ceiling and the wonderful sandstone walls, yeah? So they used the best of the best material, yeah? Actually, the price for the eagle's nest was about $70 million today, huh? Back at the time, it was terrific and it was a birthday present, yeah? What's really fascinating, ladies and gentlemen, they have been able to lower the windows of all the rooms in the Hitler time, yeah? Between the walls. Can you imagine? And this was a trick of the propaganda, because then the visitors had the open panorama to the mountains, yeah? Everything was laid out, was done to impress the foreign guests. Do you understand? Yeah? You see? So room number 2 is a reception hall, and then you are turning to your left side and you are going downstairs and you are coming finally to Eva Braun's room, because Eva Braun, the mistress, you know, the long-time mistress, yeah, she finally was living at Obersalzberg from 1936 on, when the super-sized farmhouse was finished, 1936. She was living there, but nobody was allowed to know about it. Can you imagine? Because it was only for the insiders to know Eva Braun was a mistress of Hitler. He was always shown as a single man, yeah? Investing all his energy, his health, and for the Germans, yeah? You see? So it was another trick of the propaganda. And she, when a foreign guest, for example, when Mussolini came, she had to hide in her room. But she was a photographer, and she was making photos and movies and videos, you can say, yeah? And we have a huge collection of these movies and the photos of the foreign guests. She had hidden all this stuff with her parents in Munich, and that's the reason why it survived. Yeah? You see? Yeah? That's pretty impressive. Yeah? She was only, of course, she knew all the intimates to Hitler and the wives of the intimates. Yeah? This was a surrogate family of Hitler, because he didn't have an own family. So these you can say the entourage of Hitler, they always met in the summertime at the Berghof. And at the beginning, only in the first year, it was a holiday house, but later, in the next years, it was a think tank, you can say. It was a place where they had taken a lot of very important decisions for World War II and for the genocide, yeah, was taken there. It was no longer a holiday area. Yeah? It was a holiday area, but it was no longer a holiday place, I have to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, Eva Braun's room is also decorated in a spectacular kind of wood. It's wood, stone pine wood, which is pretty rare, and consequently, which is very expensive. So, ladies and gentlemen, after your visit of the 3 rooms, you have to go out to the sun terrace, and then finally you have to go up to and out to the summit of Kehlstein, because there is a wonderful wooden cross with a huge Edelweiss. The whole area is an Edelweiss area, ladies and gentlemen. Huh? I suppose you want to pick an Edelweiss. That's not possible, huh? Because they are pretty rare and they are protected. Yeah? The Edelweiss. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I can see the eagle's nest already. Yeah? But you can't, because it's too small from here. Don't worry. Yeah? I know it very well. That's the reason why I can see it. We are, in the meantime, back in Bavaria, in Germany. Yeah? You see, we did a wonderful journey, and there is no difference between Austria and Germany. Actually,
I think it's
the Austrians have been, Austria has been a colony of Bavaria, was Christianized from the Bavarian folk, yeah? More or less, the ruler in Bavaria was sending bishops and monks to Christianize the Eastern Empire, Österreich. If you understand German, Österreich means the empire in the eastern direction. At the year 1156, Austria became independent, and that was the birthday of Austria, 1156. Consequently, we have the same dialect, we have the same tradition, they are also mostly Catholics, so you see, it's pretty easy, and Austria is our, you can say, our most important trading partner for the industry and for technology in Bavaria, yeah? Because it's easy, we have the same language, we have the same tradition, huh? To the river, yeah, because the river is coming from Austria, you know already, yeah. All the rivers here are coming from the mountain region, and have a look to your right, to your left side, please, because the water, let's see, yeah, it has a special color, huh? Isn't it interesting?
No, Jesus.
Do you know where the color is coming from? It depends from the rocks where the river is coming, yeah? And it's a lime rock, and that's a consequence. The water, the color of the water is a little bit green, emerald green. Have a look at this, huh? Isn't it very special? And looking around, ladies and gentlemen, I promise you, it's going to be a wonderful journey, because you have the autumn colors everywhere. Isn't it wonderful? Here we have a mixture of leaf and needle trees. The higher we are coming, the more we have only needle trees, yeah? And at the eagle's nest we have only needle trees, yeah? Because the eagle's nest is 5,500 feet above sea level. Obersalzberg is 3,300 feet above sea level. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah? So please, my guests sitting in the first row, pretty soon you will be able to see eagle's nest, yeah? Straight ahead. Just wait a moment, yeah? So this is the wonderful Mountain Nature Reserve Park, ladies and gentlemen, and we have specialized rangers. They are caring for the animals, and we are very, very content, because the game, the animals in this park, in this mountain region, the number of the animals is perfect. We have all kind of mountain goats, Capricorn, marmots, and we have the stone eagles here. So if you want to make a tour watching the birds or the stone eagles or the mountain goats or the marmots, no problem, yeah? Because the rangers, they are organizing such tours, and this park is overlapping to Austria, and we have an excellent teamwork with the rangers on the Austrian side, yeah? You see, because they are living close together, yeah, and they have the same language, the same dialect, yeah, so it's not a problem at all. Open borderline. So now, have a look straight ahead, because at 12 o'clock, on top of the mountain, you can see the eagle's nest. I can see it very well, huh? Have a look, at 12 o'clock. There is like the back of a cat, a little bit, a small building, yeah? That's the eagle's nest. Now you can understand why the pilots back 1945 haven't been able to touch it, yeah? It was way too small. Now you can see it very well, yeah? Now it's changing to 1 o'clock, yeah? Not the mountain with the snow. On the right side you see a small building. That's the eagle's nest, yeah? you are excited to go up. But the only way to go up is definitely the special bus. Now you have it straight ahead in front of you. Yeah? And you can see the snow here. It's pretty soon normally. The first snow is coming from the middle of October. But this year we had already a meter snow on the Eagle's Nest, and so they had to close the road immediately, and we had rock slides coming down. It was pretty complicated till they cleaned the road again. Yeah? But today we are so lucky. We can go up to the Eagle's Nest, and it's not hidden in clouds. That's another problem which is happening very often. Ooh, ladies and gentlemen, I can see it already. The majesty of this region here is definitely the mountain which is straight ahead of you. That's a famous Watzmann. That's mountain number 2 in Germany. Zugspitze is the highest mountain, 3,000 meters. This Watzmann is 2,854 meters. And this is, of course, the destination for the climber. It's a very demanding climber mountain, Watzmann. And I can tell you, I'm doing the tour twice a month, definitely, or 3. It's pretty rare to be able to see Watzmann like you are seeing it today. That's wonderful. Yeah? That's a majesty. Watzmann is 8,500 feet high. It's the second highest mountain of Germany. The highest mountain is Zugspitze, 9,000 feet. That's 3,000 meters. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope your stomach feeling is still good, because we are climbing up to Obersalzberg. Obersalzberg is 3,300 feet. The valley is 1,500 feet. Now you have it, you know it. And you see, with our bus we are not allowed to go up to the Eagle's Nest. Only specialized electric buses are going up to the Eagle's Nest. It's the steepest alpine road. The Bavarian states, together with the Institute of Contemporary History, they decided to construct an information center for all the guests coming to the Eagle's Nest to get a better information about the Hitler time. And this information center is called Documentation Center. And this center is pretty interesting, and your ticket is valid for a visit of the Documentation Center. And in the underground of this Documentation Information Center, there is a bunker system. So with your ticket for the bus, you are going to the ticket booth of the Documentation Center. They are changing your ticket, and then you can go to the Information Center and the bunker system. Do you understand? So please don't lose your ticket. We are driving in a convoy. That means we have 4 red buses going up to the Eagle's Nest. So ladies and gentlemen, we will have bus number 1 and 2. And please, when we are arriving at the bus stop in front of the tunnel, don't hang around and take 20 pictures of the tunnel. Please go immediately through the tunnel. It's pretty cold, you need your jacket, by the way, because about 100 people behind you are coming to the tunnel too, to the elevator. So don't lose too much time. Do you understand what I want to tell you? You have to go immediately through the tunnel, and later, when you are coming back down with the elevator and you're coming out of the tunnel, you can take your pictures. Yeah? And when you are using your ticket, you know your ticket, I will give you your ticket, and on the ticket you will read the bus number 1 or 2. Super. Nein, echt, das ist alles, ich wollte nur bestärken, dass du after your tour, after the time on the Eagle's Nest, we are driving down. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming down at 1:30, 1:30, and then you have time. Either you are going immediately to the restaurant where I made the reservation for you to eat something, yeah? Actually, the restaurant is pretty interesting because it's still a part of the former Platterhof of the hotel in the Hitler time, yeah? It's pretty interesting, yeah? And the meal is good, so you can go eat something and then go to the documentation center, or you can go immediately to the documentation center and then come and eat something. You have to be back on our bus, ladies and gentlemen, at 3:30. Please be punctual. 3:30. 3:30. We are meeting again on our bus. We are now meeting at 11:15 because we are excellent in time. Matko did a wonderful job, yeah? Because you have time to visit a restroom, a bathroom, WC, to stretch your legs, to drink a coffee or a cappuccino, whatever you like. And then we are meeting at a special place, which I will tell you at 11:15. And our next meeting point, after your tour, after your time on the Eagle's Nest, we are meeting outside of the tunnel at 12:55. So our first meeting time, 11:15, 11:15. Second meeting time outside of the tunnel at the bus station, 12:55. And third time, 3:30 on the bus. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are fit, you can walk down from the Eagle's Nest to the bus station instead of the elevator. Do you understand what I want to tell you? You have to calculate 20 minutes to walk down. It's beautiful today with a view, with a panoramic view. Downhill a little bit of the building of the Eagle's Nest, there is a platform from where you can take terrific photos. Stairs are running down to this platform outside of the elevator. It's very easy to find. I want you to go up to the Eagle's Nest itself, you know, to the place. Ooh, now you can see it very well, the Eagle's Nest, huh? You see, at 12:30, yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, your job, you have to visit the 3 rooms, and then you are going out to the real summit with a cross. This cross was erected in 1952 on the summit of Kehlstein, and it is dedicated to all the victims of of World War II. And if you are fit, and if you have good shoes, I hope you have good shoes, yeah? Then you can go and keep going behind the cross, because the interesting rocky part of the mountain is starting behind. You have to understand, this Eagle's Nest is a starter point for hiking tours. Now it's a little bit late because it's a long hiking tour, 6 hours, 7 hours, yeah? But it's very famous as a starter point for the hiking tours, yeah? And finally, I have to tell you where Hermann Göring had his wonderful alpine holiday house, summer house. The Bavarian state was constructing 2001 a very chic, elegant hotel. Huh? And it's rented to Kempinski. It's a 5-star hotel. So if you like it, huh? I will show you, you can see it in a perfect way when we are going up to the Eagle's Nest itself, and you can see it also from the Eagle's Nest, yeah? It's laid out in a horseshoe shape.
This is
a lot of the
Obersalzberg.
former inhabitants here, the country folk, they bought back the ruins of the houses, yeah? Because they get a very low price, yeah? Mostly. Yeah? So they bought back the ruins and they reconstructed the houses, and that also happened to the hotel of the Turkish man. I will tell you the story later exactly, because now we are coming to the place from where we are starting and where we are meeting. Isn't it wonderful, ladies and gentlemen, with a panoramic view? Yeah? Have a look to your right side, because there the red buses are starting from this place, and you have to understand where the red buses are starting. The building behind, these have been the garages for Hitler's cars, yeah? You see? And the SS man and so on, you see? We are taking these red buses, and our meeting point at 11:15 is exactly here, where you can see the white and the blue flag. You see here the white and the blue flag behind the bus? Yeah?
Yeah.
11:15 here, where you can see the bus parking and the cars parking. This was the area where the American GIs had their wonderful hotel, General Walker Hotel. Yeah. We are meeting here at the flag, white and blue. And you see, that's a restaurant I was talking about, where you can grab a sandwich, not a sandwich, coffee or a cappuccino, and where you can use the restroom, bathroom, WC water closet. They know we are coming. And later you are eating there. And please listen, parallel to the front, the facade of the building, there are stairs running down to the documentation center. This is your first option, to go down to the documentation center. Your second option, when you are crossing over the parking place, at the corner, straight ahead, there are also stairs running down to the documentation center, to the bunker system. Yeah? Do you understand? And when you are going down to the documentation center, please turn around, because then you will have a perfect view of the eagle's nest sitting on the mountain ridge. Huh? And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are lucky. You have enough time to move around a little bit, to visit the restroom, bathroom, WC water closet. At 11:15, we are meeting at the blue and white flag. Please.
So this is the first stop. We're meeting back there at 11:15. Apparently, go over here for a little R&R and some views.
We both tried it at the same time. Gotcha! I got you.
So this is the cafe here. Kind of fun with all the candelabra.
I will be up there. If you need something, you can ask me, of course, yeah? And then you have to go up to the real summit of the mountain with a cross, huh? And if you are fit, keep going a little bit behind, because it's very spectacular, the rocky part of the mountain Kehlstein. It takes about 20 minutes to drive up, yeah? About, more or less, depending how many buses are coming downhill, because it's only a one-way road. So the buses coming downhill, they have to wait till the uphill driving buses are passing by, and that takes some time. Yeah. So whenever you have questions, I will be up there. Yeah? Outside of the tunnel for driving downhill.
12:55
If you
outside
want
the
to
tunnel.
work downhill, please calculate 20 minutes on the path from the Eagle's Nest itself to the bus station outside of the tunnel. I'm walking down, I'm starting at 12:30, 12:30. outside of the elevator where the stairs are running down. Today it's perfect to walk down instead of the elevator. Yeah? Everybody understood? Huh? Good.
I think so.
Excuse me, Ursula?
Yeah.
What decoration are you referring to?
The stone.
This? Oh, I see.
Stones. That's beautiful.
So the facade, yeah. This is original.
Because they used the best material. Yeah? This is a marble. This is a marble
Oh,
stone.
you're really? When was this built?
1937.
I see.
1937. It was finished already 1938. Yeah? You see, that's a marble stone.
She's quick. So it's easily 20 degrees cooler here than where we left.
Please enter bit, please. Bitte nach hinten anrutschen, bitte.
Seconds, maybe. Geht mir weiter. Gut aus.
Ciao, servus, bye bye.
Wow. Hi. Whoa. That's right, okay. That's the little room or the building where the elevator is. And yeah, Jesus, look at this view. Holy cow. Sound of the wind through these trees. She called them needle trees, which I'm assuming is pine. It's lovely. Mussolini fireplace.
Tam chceš? No, já tam dojdu. Tam půjdeš. Tak se jdem tady.
Yeah, we got to do the same thing.
Opportunities on Hitlerhof. Oh. Huh? Toilets, okay. Toilets and a kitchen. Cool architecture though. Bitte Tür schließen. Chariot-scale. Oh shit, you gotta go. Dingbat behind me singing Sound of Music in the tunnel that Hitler himself walked numerous times. Fucking idiots. So we get an image. Ha 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 ha.
You can go immediately to the restaurant and eat something. Taken about 45 minutes for eating, and then you can go to the documentation center and the bunker system and to the place where Hitler was living. Yeah, I told you it's a little bit downhill, but it's only 5 minutes to walk down here to this place where Hitler was living. Yeah, where there was a Berghof, but you know it was first air raided by the Allies, by the American Air Force and the French Air Force and the British Royal Air Force, and then it was bulldozed down by the Germans 1952. Yeah, so there is not a lot to see, only the back wall of the building, but there is a sign which is telling you where the place was exactly. Yeah, and there are growing a lot of trees over there at the place. You have to be back on our bus at 3:30. Yeah? Okay?
Hotel where we were, way up near top. We had that bad steak dinner. That lady, there was a lady who was driving to that kind of something.
Dell's daughter. Why did you
$60 for a sweatshirt, 60 euros for a sweatshirt. Ready for a polo. There it is up there. Look at that.
Ja, ja, ja. Wir waren schon wieder gekommen.
So this is the documentation center. Should be going in a minute, but Ursula, the guide, says it's worth the 5-minute walk down here to visit the remnants, the back wall. It's all that's remaining of Hitler's house. Go figure. The temperature down here is just glorious. It's going to be about 62, 63 maybe 65 even. Up there it was cooler. Definitely above freezing because there wasn't much snow, but there was snow. Back here.
So viel Glück kann man ja nicht haben. Ich sag, so viel Glück kann man ja nicht haben. Geht nicht? Geht nicht mehr. Was lebt man nicht? So this is the bunker under Berghof's garden. No idea there was one.
Royal Air Force. Yeah? Then the German. You see,
What happened?
this was Hitler's house after the air raids. It was looking like this. Yeah, and after the air raids, it was like this,
What a
and it
mess.
was standing till 1952, like this. And then the Germans, the American government had given back. For your punctuality, that's great. Yeah, I have to count twice because it would be a catastrophe if we are leaving somebody here. It's pretty complicated to go back to Munich, and this person is going to miss the wonderful second part of our journey today because we are so lucky with the weather. We are going to the German Alpenstraße, yeah, the road of the German Alps, and you will see all the mountains, yeah,
Nice.
and that's really great today. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to ask you how it was. Huh? I can see it looking to your faces. It was great. Huh? It was really perfect. And you remember, I told you Martin Bormann was finally the mastermind of this Obersalzberg. And can you imagine it? It was not only, you can say, he forced not only the farmers to sell their property, he also forced important personalities from Munich, famous guys, to sell their holiday houses. You remember I told you it became a pretty famous place for climbing, for holidays here. So the famous family Bechstein, the piano maker, perhaps you know it, Bechstein, they had a holiday house here and they had to sell it to Martin Bormann for a pretty low price, finally. And I have to tell you, the engineer Karl von Linde, who discovered and researched and produced the ice production machine for the breweries. He was an engineer at the Technical University of Munich, and he was very, very famous, very wealthy. He also had a dream of a holiday house here, and Martin Bormann, he had taken this holiday house for his own family. You see, it was a deal under the table, what they did. So don't forget, the whole area here was in the hand of the NSDAP party. And I have to tell you, Karl Schuster, you remember I mentioned this guy already. He was the owner of the famous hotel to the Turkish man. And this, he himself, he was pretty famous as a guide. He was excellent, yeah? And he was a member of the NSDAP party. And nevertheless, Martin Bormann came 3 times, and Karl Schuster, he didn't like to sell his property, and he was pretty stubborn. He was a member of the NSDAP party, and nevertheless, finally, he was forced to accept a very low price for his property, and he went to the concentration camp because he resisted, yeah? And 1 year later, 1934, he was already dead. And the daughter of this guy, she bought the property finally, and she reconstructed after 1948. She reconstructed this hotel to the Turkish man, and still today you can stay there overnight. At the moment it's a little bit complicated because the family has heritage problems, and therefore normally you can visit the bunker system also from this hotel, but at the moment it's not possible. In the Hitler time, this hotel, Turkish man, was a telephone station, and it was a bar of the SS, and it was a seat of the dangerous group of the Gestapo, which was also sitting here at Obersalzberg. So, ladies and gentlemen, now I can tell you a good story, because finally the mistress, Eva Braun, you know, she was a beautiful young lady. She was very athletic. She was an excellent swimmer, and she was heavy in love with Hitler. He was not so, you could say, not so heavy in love with her, but I told you, he had different mistresses, but she was standing by, and she finally went to Berlin, and in the last night of their lives, in the night of 29th April, they finally married, and they had a wonderful ceremony with a dinner and a dinner and champagne and the music of Richard Wagner, because Hitler was a huge fan of Richard Wagner. And the next day, you know, they poisoned them, yeah? Selves, yeah? In the afternoon, exactly at 3:13, yeah? In the afternoon of April 30th, yeah? I have to tell you, all the intimates to Hitler, all the important generals, they had poison capsules, I hope you know. It was a very strict poison, it was cyanide, and the function was immediately. But Hitler, you know, he was very superstitious, I told you already. So can you imagine what he did? He tried the function of the poison with his beloved dog Blondie. Huh? And he had seen the dog was dying immediately. So Hitler had taken this poison capsule, and Eva Braun too, but Hitler was afraid because the Russians have been already at Berlin when they did it. So he wanted to be 150% dead, and he shot himself with his revolver. And finally, Martin Bormann promised to Hitler he is staying by till the corpse of Hitler and Eva had been burned down in the garden of the Reich Chancellery. And Martin Bormann was staying there. And there was also a doctor of Hitler still there. And ladies and gentlemen, then Martin Bormann disappeared. And everybody in Germany thought he was running away to Argentina, to South America, because a lot of the generals and the people close to Hitler, they transferred money in advance because they knew it's going downhill, yeah? So they supposed, everybody here in Germany, Martin Bormann is sitting in the sunshine in Argentina and is enjoying his life and his money. And do you know what happened? In 1972, they repaired a train station close to Berlin, and in the underground they found 2 skeletons. And one of the skeleton was Martin Bormann's skeleton, because they tested the denture and they discovered this was Martin Bormann, and the other was a doctor, one of the doctors of Hitler. Hitler had different doctors, yeah, and you can say the main guy of Hitler, the most important, was Dr. Morell. He was a doctor from Berlin. He was a doctor of the high society back in Berlin, and he was looking for Hitler, because, do you know, he had Parkinson, Hitler. Since 1943 it was very visible, because he had this left arm trembling, yeah? So this Dr. Morell, he was mixing the medication for Hitler, and we have a lot of speculations, and one speculation is saying Hitler was poisoned by the medicamentation of this Morell, but that's only a speculation, yeah, I don't know for sure, but definitely he had taken a lot of medicine, yeah, because I told you he had this Parkinson illness, yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, have a look to your right side. Can you see here? Yeah? The church with the onion-shaped dome here. Have a look to your right side. You see, that's an original, old-fashioned style with the wooden tiles. Yeah? Now we have clay tiles, or we have metal roofing, for the house, for the roofs, and for the churches. But this onion-shaped dome is typical. I have another good story for you, ladies and gentlemen, because Hermann Göring, I told you, he was the only one who was staying here when the GIs came to the Eagle's Nest and to Obersalzberg, and Hermann Göring was still sitting in his holiday house. It was badly aerated, but nevertheless, he was still there. And he was arrested, of course, and brought to Nuremberg, to the prison at Nuremberg. And behind the prison, the Palace of Justice, there was a prison, yeah? And that was one reason why they had the trial finally at Nuremberg. Did you know by chance, already in summer 1943, the Allies puzzled, what are we going to do with the main war criminals when the Germans are finally losing World War II? Huh? Because they lost Stalingrad and they had been convinced now it's going downhill. So already in summer 1943 they decided, the Allies, we will have a trial for the most important war criminals after World War II, and they had chosen Nuremberg because they wanted to have this trial based on the Anglo-American law, and it should take place in a city of the American occupied zone, and that was Nuremberg. Nuremberg was also a typical Hitler city because since 1926 we had there the party rally days, you know. And Nuremberg, this was a clever touch of Hitler because Nuremberg was already the center of the train transportation in Germany, and still today it's a very, very important place for the train, yeah? You see, because the first locomotive of Germany was constructed at Nuremberg 1835, so it has a very long tradition, and you can imagine it was easy for the Germans to go to these party rally days by train, because not a lot of Germans, they had these cars already back then, yeah? So they brought Hermann Göring to this prison at Nuremberg, and Göring was a nasty guy. He had not only one poison capsular, he had 3 poison capsulars, and you know how he was? He was hiding one poison capsule in a boot, and one in a coat, and one in a cream for his face. And then we had a trial, and 12 of these main war criminals had been sentenced to death by hanging. But Hermann Göring, he wanted to have a military-style execution. He wanted to be shot. And they said, no, you will be hanged like the others. Huh? And the GI who was watching Hermann Göring, of course, he found the poison capsule in the boot because he was looking for this stuff, and in the coat, but not in the cream for the face. And at the evening of the last day, next day was the execution, Hermann Göring asked for the cream for his face. And you know what happened? He had taken this poison capsule and he was already dead finally when they came to fetch him for the execution. Huh? So, enough, ladies and gentlemen, now of this story, and we are coming to the second part of our wonderful tour today, and you will see it's going to be pretty interesting because I talked to the guys who accompanied me on the way downhill from the Eagle's Nest to the bus station, and we talked about Berchtesgaden. Berchtesgaden, oh my God, have a look at that. It's so fantastic, you can't believe it, but it's pretty rare when you can see, all this police, huh? When you can see Watzmann like this today. So please enjoy it, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to tell you, Berchtesgaden was founded 1102. Actually, there was a funny story. A pretty wealthy lady, Irmingard, she was caring for her husband. Her husband was, you can say, obsessed hunter, and he had a bad hunting accident, so she was making a will, and she said, when my husband is finding his health again, I'm going to sponsor the construction of a monastery here in the forest, yeah? And you have to imagine the whole area here was forest. So the husband went better, and the son of this couple finally constructed the monastery for the Augustinian monks. And this monastery was flourishing very well because they got the permission from the emperor to mine the salt, to collect the taxes for hunting, for fishing, for trading with the timber, yeah? And you can imagine who had the permission for mining the salt in the Middle Ages, the white gold. This was a symbol for prosperity, and that's the reason why we have the salt mining here still today, yeah? And we are passing by the salt mine. We are not going to the salt mine, but we are passing by, and all the salt which is necessary for the southern part of Germany is going to be mined here. Yeah? You see it pretty soon on your left side. It's a very funny tour when you are going to the salt mine, because you get a jumpsuit and one size fits for everybody. You can imagine how they are looking, the different persons. So that's already a pretty amazing beginning. Have a look to your left side. That's a salt mine here, and you have a wonderful ride on a small train, and you have slides inside. There is a lake in the interior of the mountain. You have a boat ride on the lake, and you have a stone cathedral. So it's pretty fine, yeah? The salt mine is still here active, and in the Middle Ages salt was a white gold. So ladies and gentlemen, now you have to open your eyes, because you will see Berchtesgaden, founded 1102, the monastery. First you can see a single church tower, that's a parish tower, and on the left side of this parish tower you see the double tower. That's exactly the monastery. And you have to understand, in 1500, in the time 1500, the monastery was so wealthy it became a church state here. So the abbot, he was responsible for the worldly jobs and for the clerical jobs, the secular and the clerical jobs, yeah? So it was a pretty wealthy monastery here, yeah? And still today, the community is pretty interesting, because they have a lot of tourism coming to this place, because they are offering therapies if you have problems with your lungs, for example. This is the best place to come. The air is here extremely fresh and clean, yeah? Berchtesgaden, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to Google it, yeah, you can do it. They have wonderful hotels and of course a lot of houses in the Alpine style. So straight ahead, this is the Majesty Watzmann, the mountain which is 8,500 feet high, or 2,850 meters, yeah, the second highest mountain. Pretty dangerous. And ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to tell you, we are going to show you now the train station of Berchtesgaden, because you have to imagine the propaganda in the Hitler time. The minister was Goebbels, yeah, Dr. Goebbels. He was very clever, very smart, and they organized cheap journeys for all the Germans to come to this place, because they wanted to see Hitler in action. He had given speeches on the marketplace here, yeah, and we can't go with our bus into Berchtesgaden because it's pretty narrow, yeah? And we are doing this tour on the Alpenstraße. That's the reason why we are showing you now the central station. It was constructed in the Hitler time because a lot of Germans came to see and to watch and to listen to Hitler when he was giving the speeches, yeah? And you see immediately this strange station today is way too huge, too large, yeah? But back in the Hitler time it was necessary. Have a look to the left side. You see the flower boxes, yeah? This is typical in the Alpine region. The ladies, they are pretty proud of their flower boxes. And now on your right side you can see this is an original train station of the Hitler time, yeah? Because Berchtesgaden was not aerated because the Americans, you can imagine, they had perfect spies and they knew exactly where Hitler was living at Obersalzberg, yeah? Not here at Berchtesgaden, at Obersalzberg, and the Eagle's Nest, they knew it very well, of course. So this Berchtesgaden was taken over by the American GIs without any, you can say, any try to defend it, yeah? It was pretty easy, and when they came to the Eagle's Nest, of course the GIs had been afraid of the defense of the SS men because they knew there have been a lot of SS men, but nobody was there anymore, and so they had taken it over very easily, yeah? You see here the tracks on your right side? This is a train to Munich. Actually, you can come to Berchtesgaden by train, yeah? If you are coming next time, now you know how beautiful it is, yeah? But please don't come too early, because the road for the special buses up to the Eagle's Nest is only opened from the middle of May, yeah? The whole winter time it's closed because it's way too dangerous, yeah? Because we have too much snow. Normally we have between 2 and 2.5 meters snow up there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting with our wonderful tour of the German Alps, yeah? So you can see here, it's impressive, yeah? The next mountain is coming here. Hochkalter. That's a name. It's a little bit complicated in German, eh? But you will see all these mountains, Reiteralpe, the next mountain, all these mountains are more than 6,000 feet high, yeah? And have a look how perfect it is. It's like a painting, yeah? With the colors of autumn, huh? Here, in the middle of the roundabout, you can see the advertising for the nature reserve. Links, Franke. Links, doch bitte. Ja, danke. You see the advertising for the nature reserve park. Yeah? So this is a special valley, which we are going to show you because you have been so punctual. We have time enough to do it, yeah? And you will see today it's really very, very special, huh? Actually, ladies and gentlemen, the farmers here, they are, for years and years, they had complained. They have been complaining against the price for the milk, which they got, yeah? And so finally they founded their own, you can say, union, yeah? And now they are trading their milk and their butter and their cheese because it's really excellent. Have a look to these green meadows, and you can imagine when the cows are grazing here, like you see the cows here on your right side, the quality of the milk is pretty fine, yeah? And if you are going to a supermarket, you will see the normal milk of Bavaria is covered in white and blue, but this milk of the Union of Berchtesgaden is covered in green. Try it, please, because it's an excellent milk, yeah? all the farmhouses, which you can see here lining up on your right side, they are mostly bed and breakfast houses where you can stay overnight, yeah? And the prices are pretty moderate here, yeah? You are paying between 45 euro per person per night, yeah? So whenever you are coming to this area, my recommendation, go to the bed and breakfast houses, especially in this valley, because it's so good, yeah? The air is totally clean. We don't have industry here close by. Have a look to the alpine houses. The ladies are starting now to take off the flower boxes because, you know, the nights are pretty cold now here. Huh? Do you know Eisenhower? Of course, everybody knows Eisenhower, yeah? He was a general, you know, a very important general during World War II, and he was so fascinated by Bavaria, huh? And he was coming as one of the first to the Eagle's Nest, because this was typical, this was very typical for the Hitler time. You can say it was a symbol of the Hitler time, and so all the generals, the American generals, they wanted to see this symbol, and he was falling in love with the nature here, especially this valley was his favorite valley. And did you know Eisenhower was painting postcards for his own family and for the staff of the White House later, especially for Christmas time. And he painted one church very, very often. Of course, I'm going to show you the church when it's coming pretty soon. Is pretty famous for holiday makers. When we are coming to this area here during the weekend, we have bikers. They are exercising here for the Tour de France, you know, the most famous race and competition in France, for example. Now it's still plain, but you will see we are climbing up pretty fast. Have a look to the water, to the creek on your left side, yeah? You can see the color we talked about, but now I want to tell you, if you are a fan of wild water rafting, you can practice it here, yeah, in summertime. Now it's pretty cold, even in summertime. The water is extremely cold because it's coming right from the mountains, but you can pull your feet inside and you can practice wild water rafting. Now it's a little bit complicated for our driver because he needs the middle of the road, because our double-decker is just 4 meters, nearly 4 meters high. And if he is continuing on the right side, on the right lane, we are losing part of our roof. And that's not a good surprise for the guests sitting up there. You see? I told you it's pretty exciting, our journey. Well done. Well done. So have a look. Isn't it romantic here? So pretty soon we are climbing up and you will see the mountains from a different position. It's really genius, you will see. This is a mountain straight ahead, Reiter Alpen. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you noticed when we have been at the Eagle's Nest, I hope you noticed the wonderful birds, the black birds, yeah? These are, do you know, these have been jackdaws, yeah? Jackdaws. And they are wonderful. Did you notice how they are clever flying, yeah? And using the air and the wind for their artistic waves flying, and they are pretty eager to get something of your pretzel or whatever you have been eating there, yeah? Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are here at this special small village which was painted by Eisenhower. It says Ramsau. Ramsau. And this is now our climber village, yeah? We have here the best and the biggest number of climber guides here, yeah? And this is a very interesting small village because they have a special idea of tourism. They want to slow down the tourism, and their slogan is, we are going to slow down the pace of your life. You see, if you are too stressed, you have to come to this place and you will enjoy the special atmosphere. They don't have huge hotels here. Have a look to your left side. You will see all the houses here are in Alpine style. And now you have to look to your left side down. That's a church which was painted by Eisenhower with a cemetery around, yeah? And there in front of the church, I can tell you, there is a wooden bridge over the creek which is passing by. It's very romantic, and the consequence, this church is a very demanded wedding church in Bavaria, yeah? And whenever you are buying a calendar of Bavaria, of Germany, you will find definitely the photo of this church, because this church is pretty famous, yeah? Matko has once again this problem with the height of the tunnel and our bus, our double-decker, yeah? I have to tell you, in Germany, it's like an illness of the man, huh? When they are celebrating their 50th birthday, next day, they are buying a Harley Davidson or a BMW motorcycle. It's a must, otherwise they are not able to stand the midlife crisis coming after 50 years, huh? Yeah, it's in Germany, it's like an illness, yeah? In my road back in Munich, 3 guys bought a motorcycle of a Harley Davidson, and Saturday morning, yeah, they are roaring up and the whole street is waking up, huh? Yeah, so it's definitely an illness, yeah, of the man. I hope you are not sleeping, huh? Because we are coming to my favorite place for you, huh? Please prepare your mobile phone, your camera, and open your eyes, yeah? Because it's so beautiful, so stunning, yeah? Yeah, it's great. Just a moment, it's coming. And we are very close to Austria, you remember, huh? We are actually a stone's throw away from Austria, yeah? So it's coming right now, the view for you. Have a look at that, huh? Isn't it like a painting with all these different colors? Yeah? Do you see? Once again, I want to tell you, all the houses here, have a look around, farmhouses, yeah? Restaurants, bed and breakfast houses, so you can stay here overnight. On your right side, you can see the cows here, they have to be fit, huh? Because we have a lot of rolling hills where they are grazing, yeah? So it's really necessary. It's a special race of cows We are calling it, this race, the brown dotted race. And the original cows are coming from Switzerland. And this is a race which is giving a lot of milk. That's important, of course. Yeah? And we have only milk farmers here. Yeah? It's way too hilly. Yeah? So, ladies and gentlemen, do you like trees? Do you like old trees? Because we are going to show you the oldest tree of this part of Bavaria. It's a lime tree, more than 500 years old. Just wait a moment, I will prepare you just in time. And of course, here we have a lot of ski lifts in winter time and places for cross-country skiing in the valley on your left side. It's wonderful. Actually, the gap on your left side between the mountains, yeah, that's already Austria. Yeah? You see, we are pretty close. Yeah? Nee, geradeaus, geradeaus. Du fährst ganz gerade. Bleibst. Ja, das ist ja. Okay, are you ready for the oldest tree? On your right side, it's coming. And please, have a look to the trunk of the tree. Because it's very impressive, yeah? It's called Hindenburg Linde in German. Huh? And it's a pretty demanding place. Have a look to your right side, please. You will see it here, huh? The tree. Yeah? With this huge trunk. And ladies and gentlemen, it's such a perfect day today, so we are going to stop here for you, and you can take a photo. Yeah? So ladies and gentlemen, you can hop off and you can take fantastic photos, but you have to promise me you are not staying on the road, huh? Because this would be your very last photo. It would be great, but last, yeah? Okay? So please stay close, don't stay on the road, yeah?
This way.
Taking visitors to the pilgrimage church of Saint Bartholomew. Also kept 2 rooms in this building as offices of the Obersalzberg administration.
This year, we had 21 children who had been brought to the office for lost and found, and they had been lucky because the parents passed by and had taken back their children. Huh? And we have a small hospital at the place where we are celebrating, because a lot of guests, they are discussing with the beer steins, and then it's necessary to have a doctor and nurses there at the place. And there is an office for lost and found items, and that's my funny story for you. Last year, I don't know this year, the result of this year, every time they are writing it in the newspaper. Last year, ladies and gentlemen, we had 522 pieces of cloth brought to the office of lost and found. I don't want to describe it.